أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار أما بعد. Brothers and sisters in Islam, war creates the strongest and most bizarre allies. Sometimes the best ally in war is a familiar face, someone who shares a common foe. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Adam and his wife to dwell on earth, it was intended to be a temporary abode, a temporary dwelling place of struggle and eternal warfare with an eternal enemy or eternal enemies, both without the individual and within the individual. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَقُلْنَا اهْبِطُوا بَعْضُكُمْ لِبَعْضٍ عَدُوٌّ وَلَكُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ مُسْتَقَرٌّ وَمَتَاعٌ إِلَىٰ حِينٍ. Allah says, and we said to them, meaning Adam, Hawa, as well as Shaitan, all of you, go down to earth. Go down to earth. اهْبِطُوا مِنْهَا جَمِيعًا. Go out, go down to the earth. بَعْضُكُمْ لِبَعْضٍ عَدُوٌّ. Enemies to one another. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was very clear to Adam and his wife that you will go down to earth and that will be mata'un ila hin. It will be a temporary dwelling place, but you will have an eternal enemy on earth. Prior to this, Adam had already identified, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had already identified to Adam who his real enemy was, as a forewarning and a prelude to the evident combat between him and his enemy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Adam, قُلْنَا يَا آدَمُ إِنَّ هَذَا عَدُوٌ لَكَ وَلِزَوْجِكَ فَلَا يُخْرِجَنَّكُمَا مِنَ الْجَنَّةِ فَتَشْقَى. And we said, O Adam, indeed this one here, عَدُوٌ لَكَ وَلِزَوْجِكَ. This one here is an enemy to you and an enemy to your wife. فَلَا يُخْرِجَنَّكُمَا مِنَ الْجَنَّةِ فَتَشْقَى. So do not let him get you kicked out of paradise and you end up in misery. This was a forewarning to Adam. This is what happens when we don't pay attention to our enemies. We don't recognize who our real enemy is. And as the saying goes, if you know the enemy and you know yourself, then you need not fear the result of 100 battles. But if you know yourself and you don't know your enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. And if you know neither your enemy or yourself, then you will succumb in every battle. You will lose every battle. An individual who doesn't know himself and doesn't know his enemy, knowing yourself meaning knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, knowing your vices, knowing your vulnerabilities, because these are all of the things that your enemy uses against you. But if you're walking around self-deluded thinking that I'm perfect, I got it all figured out, right? I don't have any weaknesses, I'm strong, right? Your enemy will take advantage of you every single time. But if you know yourself, you are aware of your weaknesses, you're aware of your strengths, and you are aware of the things that, or the madakhil, the ways that your enemy enters upon you, enters into your life, then you can protect yourself, you can guard yourself, right? Khalil ibn Ahmed, one of the scholars of the past, he said, Ar-rijal arba'. Men are four types. There are four types of men. He said, رَجُلٌ يَدْرِي وَيَدْرِي أَنَّهُ يَدْرِي فَذَلِكَ عَالِمٌ فَاتَّبِعُوهُ. There's the type of man who knows and knows that he knows. This is a scholar, this is an intelligent person. Follow him, he knows exactly what he's doing. رَجُلٌ يَدْرِي وَيَدْرِي أَنَّهُ يَدْرِي فَذَلِكَ عَالِمٌ فَاتَّبِعُوهُ. This is a man who knows and he knows that he knows. He knows his own worth, knows his own qualities, knows his own weaknesses, knows his own strengths, knows his vulnerabilities, knows his value. You can't do anything with a person like that. In this society here that makes men into mice because they don't recognize their own value and their own worth and their own weaknesses and their strengths, someone else sits back from a place of privilege, watches you, realizes that you have talent, realizes that you have potential, and they exploit you and use you. And when they're done with you, then it's off to the next person. This is the type of society that we live in. So the person, the most dangerous person in this environment right now is a man who knows and he knows that he knows. That's a scholar, that's a smart person. Follow him. He said, وَرَجُلٌ يَدْرِي وَلَا يَدْرِي أَنَّهُ يَدْرِي فَذَلِكَ نَائِمٌ فَأَيْقَظُوهُ. Then there's the man that knows, but doesn't know that he knows. This person is just asleep. All you got to do is wake him up. All you have to do is wake him up. He knows, but he hasn't come to the realization. He hasn't arrived at that level of consciousness that he knows. This person is asleep. All you got to do is wake him up. The right little bit of information is enough to wake the person up. The third person, فَرَجُلٌ لا يدري ويدري أنه لا يدري فذلك مسترشد فأرشدوه. The third type of man is a man who doesn't know, but he knows that he doesn't know. This is a mustarshad. This is a person that needs just a little bit of direction. فأرشدوه. So just direct him. He already knows that he doesn't know. He's not self-deluded. He's not the type of person who believes that he is something that he is really not. He knows that he doesn't know. He's aware of that. Aware of his weaknesses. Aware of his vices. Aware of his vulnerabilities. رَجُلٌ لَا يَدْرِي وَيَدْرِي أَنَّهُ لَا يَدْرِي is a man that doesn't know, but he knows that he doesn't know. فَذَلِكَ مُسْتَرْشَدْ فَأَرْشَدُوهُ. This is a man who just needs direction. All you got to do is direct him. And the last one, Miskeen. He said, رَجُلٌ لَا يَدْرِي وَلَا يَدْرِي أَنَّهُ لَا يَدْرِي فَذَلِكَ جَاهِلٌ فَارْفَضُوهُ. He said, and the last man is the type of man who doesn't know and doesn't know that he doesn't know. This is an ignoramus. Wash your hands of it. رجل لا يدري ولا يدري أنه لا يدري فذلك جاهل فارفضوه. A man who doesn't know and doesn't know that he doesn't know. throw this individual away. Stay away from this type of person. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the children of Adam the same exact warning that He gave to Adam, knowing that the battle, the ongoing war between Adam and Shaitan would transcend Adam and Shaitan over and continue on with Adam's progeny, his children, until Yawm al-Qiyamah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, يَا بَنِي آدَمْ لَا يَفْتِنَنَّكُمُ الشَّيْطَانُ كَمَا أَخْرَجَ أَبَوَيْكُمْ مِنَ الْجَنَّةِ. O children of Adam, do not let Shaitan become a fitna for you, a trial for you, just as he got your parents kicked out of Jannah. In addition to this, the earth was given to Adam and his wife as a temporary dwelling place for him and his progeny. And this earth that we live on now was filled with enemies, filled with temptations that appeal to the internal vices of the human being, sometimes making him his own worst enemy while he doesn't even realize it. This earth that we live on right now, we have external enemies and we have internal enemies. And if you are not aware of your internal enemies, your vices, Shaitan will use your vices against you, making you your own worst enemy while you don't even realize it. Some of us are so self-sabotaging in our own lives. Every time something good comes to you in your life, we destroy it. Whether it is a human being, whether it is a job, whether it is a spouse, it doesn't matter. Every time you get your hands on something, you destroy it. Self-sabotaging. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us in the Quran, وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. Do not let your own hands be the cause of your own destruction. Don't be self-sabotaging in your life. For some of us, we can't help it. We are our own worst enemy, and then we blame everybody else for our failures. It's your fault that I'm not successful. It's your fault that I'm not married. It's your fault that I'm broke. It's your fault that I don't have a job. It's your fault that I don't have this. It's everybody else's fault except yours. Meanwhile, you self-sabotage everything that comes to you. So Shaitan will have you believing that you are your own worst enemy, or have you making yourself your own worst enemy if you fail to address your internal vices. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَأَمَّنْ مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. Allah says, as for the one who fears the station of his Lord, وَأَمَّنْ مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ, fears the station of his Lord, the status of his Lord over him, وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى, and he prevents his desires from giving into his desires, فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى, that indeed Jannah is his final abode. There has to be self-accountability. There has to be self-restraint. There has to be putting those desires in their proper places and not allowing them to transgress the boundaries. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned the authentic hadith. He said, إِنَّ الدُّنْيَا حُلْوَةٌ خَضِرَةٌ, that indeed this dunya, this world, is green and sweet. Giving you the reality of the world that we live in. إِنَّ هَذِهِ الدُّنْيَا حُلْوَةٌ خَضِرَةٌ, that this world is sweet and green. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ مُسْتَخْلِفَكُمْ فِيهَا, and Allah has established you in the earth, placed you in the earth, فَيَنْظُرَ كَيْفَ تَعْمَلُونَ, to watch you and see how you move about in the earth. Allah placed you here in the earth. Is green and sweet. The earth being green and sweet is metaphorical for all of the delights that the world has to offer. Some healthy, some unhealthy, some halal and some haram. The halal is clear and the haram is clear. But this dunya, حُلْوَةٌ خَضِرَةٌ, it is green and sweet. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ مُسْتَخْلِفَكُمْ فِيهَا, that Allah has placed you and established you in the earth. فَيَنْظُرَ كَيْفَ تَعْمَلُونَ, to watch you and see how you fare in the earth. He said, فَاتَّقُوا الدُّنْيَا وَاتَّقُوا النِّسَاءَ فَإِنَّ أَوَّلَ فِتْنَةَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ فِي النِّسَاءِ. He says, so fear this dunya, fear this world, and fear women. Because indeed, the first trial of Bani Israel was with women. Why did the Prophet ﷺ specify women? Aren't women a part of the dunya? Yes, if he said fear the dunya, women are included in that. But he excluded the women from that to highlight and to accentuate the danger of a man when he doesn't understand that a woman is a vice for pretty much every man. And if you are not aware of that, you will put yourself in situations and circumstances where you will end up putting yourself at odds with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because you don't recognize that. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala said in a very profound passage, he said that waging war against the enemy on the outside, fara'un an jihad al-adu al-dakhil, waging war against the enemy, al-adu al-kharij, an external enemy, is a branch from waging war against your internal enemy. He said, فَإِنَّهُ مَنْ لَمْ يُجَاهِدْ نَفْسَهُ أَوَّلًا لِتَعْمَلَ مَا أُمِرَتْ بِهِ وَتَتْرُكْ مَا نُهِيَتْ عَنْهُ لا يمكنه جهاده عدوه في الخارج فكيف يجاهد عدوه الخارجي وعدوه الداخلي بين جنبيه قاهر عليه ومتسلط عليه. Ibn al-Qayyim, he said that he who does not wage war against his internal enemy, to command his soul, his desires to be in accordance with the things that Allah commanded it to do, and to command his desires to stay away from the things that Allah commanded it to stay away from, then he will never, لا يمكنه جهاد عدوه في الخارج, you will never be able to wage war against your external enemy. How could you wage war against an external enemy when your internal enemy has authority over you? How? We ought to recognize our vices and who our real enemies are. Some of our internal vices were identified in the Quran. If you read the Quran gives us a list of human weaknesses, human vices that all human beings, not just Muslims, because as Muslims sometimes we get to distinguishing ourselves from non-Muslims, or that's a non-Muslim problem, or those are problems of the kuffar. Well, guess what? We live amongst the kuffar. Many of us converted to Islam after living a life with kufr. You don't think that we have the same vices? And some of these vices are universal across religious and cultural lines. And just a few that Allah mentioned in the Quran, and we can, kind of do some reflection on ourselves and ask ourselves, is this one of my vices? Is this one of my struggles? The first is hastiness. Many of us are very impatient, but we don't want to wait for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's decision. So we go ahead of Allah and we make the decisions ourselves, only to end up in failure, falling flat on our faces. Allah tells us in the Quran, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تُقَدِّمُوا بَيْنَ يَدَيِ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهِ. Oh, you who believe, do not put yourselves before Allah and His Messenger. Don't put yourself forward before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We make istikhara, we ask Allah for His decision. فَإِنَّكَ تَعْلَمْ وَلَا أَعْلَمْ وَإِنَّكَ تَقْدِرُ وَلَا أَقْدِرُ وَأَنْتَ عَلَّامُ الْغُيُوبِ. Oh Allah, you know and I don't know. You have power and I have none. And you are the knower of the unseen. And after affirming all of those great qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we still cannot wait for God's decision. We have to make the decision ourselves. And we end up in a problem. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ مِنْ عَجَلٍ سَأُرِيكُمْ آيَاتِي فَلَا تَسْتَعْجِلُونَ. The human being was created in haste. In ajal, human being, he didn't say Muslims, non-Muslims. He said, خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ مِنْ عَجَلٍ. The human being was created in haste. We will indeed surely show you our signs, so don't be hasty. The Prophet ﷺ said that when Allah created Adam, and he was just an empty vessel laying on the ground, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blew the soul into Adam, and it started from his head and began to work its way down the body. When the soul reached the waist of Adam, Adam sat up, amazed at his body, and he tried to get up, but he couldn't. And this is the tafsir of that ayat, that the human being was created in haste. We can't wait for something to happen naturally we gotta force it. And as a result of that, we end up sometimes putting ourselves at odds with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The human being is argumentative. This self-righteous, this validating soul that we have, that I'm always right, I got it all figured out, and I'm going to argue my point because I can. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ صَرَّفْنَا فِي هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ لِلنَّاسِ مِنْ كُلِّ مَثَلٍ وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانُ أَكْثَرَ شَيْءٍ جَدَلًا. He said that we have put forth for mankind in this book, the Quran, every example known to man. And human being is still argumentative. I need unequivocal proof that God exists. Proof is you're here. You started off as a nutfa. You started off as a microscopic sperm cell. And now you have a mouth, you have faculties, and you can talk, and you deny the existence of God. You yourself, even within yourselves, you are proof. But the human being is so argumentative that we can't even see the signs that are right in front of us. Always got to prove my point, even when there's no point to prove. The Prophet ﷺ said, أَنَا زَعِيمٌ بِبَيْتٍ فِي رَبَضِ الْجَنَّةِ لِمَنْ تَرَكَ الْمِرَاءَ وَهُوَ مُحِقٌّ. He said that I can guarantee a mansion in the middle of paradise for the person, or the upper parts of paradise for the person who leaves off argumentation, even if he's right. Even when you're right. Because that's the most difficult time to stop arguing. Because when we believe we have a point to prove, we're going to argue it all the way to the end. No matter what we have to sacrifice in the end, we can lose our jobs, but we're going to walk away, I was right. You lose your marriage, you walk away, I was right though. MashaAllah. You can be right and single, or you can be wrong and married. Your choice. You can't have it both ways. Sometimes you have to say, you know what? You're right, and walk away from it. And see the person the very next day and move on with your relationship. Being right all the time has a price. Understand that. That comes with a price tag. And that price tag is being alone. You have some highly intelligent individuals amongst us in our world today that are alone. No spouse, no children, no friends, no social circle, no nothing. But you're right. You're always right. Which is why you're by yourself. Many of us are not stable. Not stable in terms of, and of course our argumentation will carry with us all the way into the day of judgment. Which is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will seal our mouths shut Yawm al-Qiyamah and let our faculties do the talking. You've done enough talking. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, الْيَوْمَ نَخْتِمُ عَلَىٰ أَفْوَاهِهِمْ وَتُكَلِّمُنَا أَيْدِيهِمْ وَتَشْهَدُ أَرْجُلُهُم بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, on the day we will seal your mouths shut. نَخْتِمُ عَلَىٰ أَفْوَاهِهِمْ. We will seal their mouths shut. وَتُكَلِّمُنَا أَيْدِيهِمْ. And your hands will talk. وَتَشْهَدُ أَرْجُلُهُم. And your feet will bear witness about all of the things that you need to do. You've done enough talking, human being. You've done enough talking. You've defended and argued your point from the moment you learned how to talk. All the way until you meet God. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seals your mouth shut and allows your body parts to do the talking. Many of us are unstable, anxious, unstable. And this instability has us flip-flopping from one thing one day to something else the very next day. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ خُلِقَ هَلُوعًا إِذَا مَسَّهُ الشَّرُّ جَزُوعًا وَإِذَا مَسَّهُ خَيْرٌ مَنُوعًا إِلَّا الْمُصَلِّينَ. Allah says that the human being was created halu'a, created anxious. إِذَا مَسَّهُ الشَّرُّ جَزُوعًا. That when some evil, some difficulty, some adversity afflicts him, he becomes impatient. وَإِذَا مَسَّهُ خَيْرٌ مَنُوعًا. And when some good comes to him, he becomes stingy. You want to withhold, failing to see that you were just a few days ago, just a few months ago, just a few years ago, in the same situation that you were denying somebody else. Selfish. We rise to a position, and it's like we hoard it all for ourselves. I don't want to share it with anybody else. And the last quality that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran is that we take kindness for weakness. And if we'll do that with God, then most certainly we will do that with another human being. Allah says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhal insanu ma gharraka bi rabbika al-kareem. Oh human being, Ya ayyuhal insan. The address is always to the human race. It's not a Muslim issue or a non-Muslim issue. This is a human issue. Ya ayyuhal insan, oh you human being, ma gharraka bi rabbika al-kareem. What has deceived you about the generosity of your Lord? That we think that because Allah continues to favor us, that we're good. As long as Allah keeps blessing me, we continue to translate our blessings as being close to God. When in fact, what might be perceived as a blessing might actually be a punishment. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala was asked about a man who continues musir ala ma'asiyatillah, lakin Allah jalla wa ala yun'im alayhi. ما زال الله ينعم عليه وهو مصر على معصية الله. قال إمام أحمد فاعلم أنه استدراج يستدرجه من حيث لا تعلم. يستدرجه من حيث لا يعلم. He said that if you see a man who is persistent upon being disobedient to Allah and Allah continuously blesses him, then know that it's istidraj. Allah is taking you step by step to your eventual destruction. It is not a blessing. But you are so deceived by Allah's generosity. And as Allah says in the Quran, نَبِّئْ عِبَادِي أَنِّي أَنَا الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ وَأَنَّ عَذَابِي هُوَ عَذَابُ الْعَلِيمُ. That inform my servants that I am Ghafur Rahim, I am forgiving and merciful. وَأَنَّ عَذَابِي هُوَ عَذَابُ الْعَلِيمُ. But my punishment is severe. Don't let Allah's forgiveness, don't let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep blessing you, deceive you into believing that you got over. Oh, Allah didn't punish me. Alhamdulillah, I got away with it. Maybe that's a sign that Allah forgave me. No, maybe it's a sign that Allah is waiting for you, Yawm al-Qiyamah, and everybody's Qiyamah starts when you die. Don't wait for Yawm al-Qiyamah, meaning the last day. Don't wait for the day of judgment. Your day of judgment starts the moment you die. As the scholars say, إِذَا مَاتَ الْإِنسَانِ قَدْ قَامَتْ قِيَامَتُهُ. That when the human being dies, your Qiyamah has already started. Your accountability has already started. Don't say, well, Yawm al-Qiyamah, maybe I hope that Allah is going to forgive me, He's going to do this. No, you need to worry about the grave, the barzakh. Because there's punishment in the grave for things that you've done here in this life. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spare us from the punishment of the grave and the punishment of the hereafter. بارك الله لي ولكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعني وإياكم بما جاء فيه من الآيات والذكر الحكيم. أقول ما تسمعون أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المؤمنين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله العلي الجبار غافل الذنب والقابل التوب الشديد العقاب واشهد ان لا اله الا الله وحده لا شريك له واشهد ان محمدا عبده ورسوله. Brothers and sisters in Islam, grasping the reality of this world is important to understand, and one of the greatest realities of this world is that the most valuable commodity that we can get from this world is a righteous wife. For the men, a righteous wife is the greatest and most important thing that you can get from this world. Your children may get older and leave you. Your children may resent you because they didn't understand your parenting methods and styles. The one person that you have in your corner that understands your struggles, understands you sometimes better than you understand yourself, is a righteous woman. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Ad-dunya mata' wa khayra mata' ad-dunya al-mar'atu as-salihah." That this dunya is a mata'. is a temporary dwelling place. Temporary. وَخَيْرُ مَتَاعٍ الْمَرْأَةُ الصَّالِحَةُ. And the best of a temporary thing that we can, the best commodity that we can get from this temporary world is a righteous woman. The Prophet ﷺ defined what a righteous woman is. He said, الْمَرْأُ الْخَيْرُ النِّسَاءِ إِذَا نَظَرْتَ إِلَيْهَا سَرَّتْكَ وَإِذَا أَمَرْتَكَ أَطَاعَتْكَ وَإِذَا غِبْتَ عَنْهَا حَفِظَتْكَ فِي نَفْسِهَا وَمَالِكَ. The Prophet ﷺ said that the best of the women is a woman who إِذَا نَظَرْتَ إِلَيْهَا سَرَّتْكَ. That when you look at her, she pleases you. Not pleases you just necessarily in her beauty, but in her worship and her relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing more beautiful in the eyes of a man. There's nothing that is more قُرَّةَ عَيْنٍ لِلرَّجُلِ. There's nothing that is more soothing to the eye of a man than to look at his wife and to observe and to be, grateful that he has a woman who respects the boundaries of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some men corrupt their women and pull them away from having a good relationship with Allah simply because you want her to jump off the bridge with you. Because by allowing the woman to have a great relationship with Allah, even if you decide to be unrighteous and immoral, at least she's there to talk you off the bridge when you're about to jump. Some of us corrupt our women, take off the hijab, you don't have to pray, you don't have to do this, because you want her to jump off the bridge right along with you. That's not the wisest thing to do. What is wise is to allow her that space, that element to develop a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as men, we are risk takers. We like to take risks sometimes as men, and sometimes we need somebody to say, honey, no, not a good idea. It's not going to be a good look for you. You need that. And the Prophet ﷺ affirmed that. The Prophet ﷺ affirmed that the woman was created from a rib, giving us the origin of her creation. Once you understand the origin of your woman and why she was created, then you can allow her the space to do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created her to do. The Prophet ﷺ said, خُلِقَتِ الْمَرْأَةِ مِنْ ضِلْعٍ, that a woman was created from a rib. He said, وَإِنَّ أَعْوَجَ شَيْءٍ فِي الضِّلْعِ أَعْلَاهَا يعني فمها لسانها. He said, وَإِنْ اسْتَمْتَعْتَ بِهَا اسْتَمْتَعْتَ بِهَا وَبِهَا عِوَجٍ وَإِنْ ذَهَبْتَ تُقِيمَهَا كَسَّرْتَهَا وَكَسْرُهَا طَلَاقُهَا. The Prophet ﷺ said that the woman was created from a rib. That's the origin. It's what she was created from. And the rib in our bodies, if you've ever had a rib broken, if you ever had a rib damaged, if you understand anything about the human anatomy, what purpose does the rib serve? The rib cage protects the heart. Her purpose is to protect her husband and to help him assume his role as the patriarch, as the man of his family, to assist him in his battles, both within himself and outside of himself. But if you don't understand the origin of your woman, then you can't possibly let her do what she was created to do. We end up making her do what we want her to do. The Prophet ﷺ said that the woman was created from the rib. And the most curved or the crookedest part of the rib is the top part. Her tongue, her mouth. He said, and if you are going to draw any benefit from your woman, you will do so while she's crooked. He said, because if you go and try to straighten her, you're going to break her. And to break her is to divorce her. If you draw any benefit from the woman, you will only do so while she is exactly the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created her. But to try to change that into making her be more like you want her to be, you are going to break her. You can't imagine how many women in their marriages today don't even know who they are, because they have been changed to fit the man's expectations of a woman. And this gives a woman a unique task of, assisting the man and empowering him to enter into his battles, both within himself and outside of himself, successfully. When the Prophet ﷺ ran home after seeing Jibreel for the first time, he ran home to his wife. And he said to her, Zammiluni, Zammiluni, cover me, scared, afraid. He had never seen an image like that before in his life. Enough to drive any sane man crazy. And who did he run home to? He didn't run to Abu Bakr. He didn't run to Abdurrahman ibn Auf. He didn't run to any of his companions. He ran to his wife, that rib, to protect that heart. And he said to Khadija, when he got home, he said, Zammiluni, Zammiluni, inni khashitu ala nafsi. He said, cover me, I am in fear of myself. And Khadija said, Kalla wallahi la yukhzika Allahu abadan. She said, no, I swear by God, I swear by Allah, la yukhzika Allahu abadan. Allah will never humiliate you. Here's the empowering. Here's the rib doing what it's supposed to do. Right? She said, Wallahi, innaka la tasilu rahim, wa tasduqu al-hadith, وتحضر الكلى وتكسب المعدوم وتقرئ الضيف والضيوف وتعين على نوائب الحق لا والله لا يخزيك الله أبدا. She said, no, by Allah, Allah will never humiliate you. She said, I swear by Allah, you keep family ties. You are honest in your speech. You shoulder responsibilities that are not yours. You aid the poor. You take care of your guests. There's no way that Allah would humiliate someone like you. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ said in defense of Khadija later on after her death, when he was talking to Aisha, and Aisha said to him, after the Prophet used to make mention of Khadija all the time, she said, هَلْ كَانَتْ إِلَّا عَجُوزًا. She said, wasn't Khadija anything other than just an old woman? وَقَدْ أَبْدَلَكَ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا مِنْهَا. And Allah has given you better than her, me. Why do you keep mentioning Khadija this and Khadija that? I'm better than her. And the Prophet ﷺ said to her, كيف قلتِ? What did you just say? He said, لا والله ما أبدلك الله ما أبدلك الله خير منها. He said, no, by Allah, Allah did not give me better than her. Meaning you are not better than her. He said, وَقَدْ آمَنَتْ بِي إِذْ كَفَرَ بِي النَّاسِ. She believed in me when everybody else disbelieved in me. She was the only person, and some of us in this room right now have women in our corners, and nobody believed in your dreams, nobody believed in your ambitions, nobody believed in you. She breathed that life into you. And I'll be the first to say that. She breathed that life into you. You wouldn't be the man that you are today had it not been for, many times we go into endeavors, business and otherwise, and we're a little anxious, we're a little afraid, and it's that woman's voice, that wife's voice that say, you can do it. And that's all we need. That's all we need. And that's what Khadija represented for the Prophet ﷺ. She breathed life into him, and in turn, he protected her even in her absence. Some of us may have been divorced from a woman, and then we remarry, and then we allow the new wife to disrespect our ex-wives, our wife. Or you're going to defend her? Absolutely. Don't invalidate what I had with this woman. You will never have that. We have a different experience, me and you, but you will never have that experience that I had with that person. Value that and respect that, because respecting that is respecting me. If a woman says to me, I don't know what you saw in her, why you ever married her, what does that say about me? Your disrespect of her is in fact a disrespect of me. And the Prophet ﷺ said to Aisha, no, by Allah, Allah did not give me better than her. She believed in me when nobody else believed in me. وَصَدَقَتْنِي إِذْ كَذَّبَنِي النَّاسِ. And she believed that I was truthful when everybody else called me a liar. He said, وَوَاسَتْنِي مِنْ مَالِهَا إِذْ حَرَّمَنِي النَّاسِ. And she gave me money when everybody else refused to give me a dime. I couldn't go to anybody else for help, and she was there. He said, وَرَزَقَنِيَ اللَّهُ الْأَوْلَادِ مِنْهَا إِذْ حَرَّمَنِي الْأَوْلَادِ نِسَاءَ غَيْرِهَا. He said, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me all of my children from that woman, and Allah did not allow any other woman to have any of my children. So you are not better than her. The point that I'm making, brothers and sisters,